What's going on, Canes fans? We are
What's
back
up,
with
guys?
another post-game show on Mark Rogers TV. I got my main man Jordan here with me. We're going to be breaking down the game like usual. You know, a little tougher game than people probably wanted to see against Georgia Tech. I understand that, but I think there's some positives we can take away from this. I think there's positives and negatives. A win is a win. But Jordan, what do you want to touch on first here with the game?
So first, let's talk about the. Let's hit the box score first and kind of highlight some of the big performances. Tyler Van Dyke again had an amazing game. So he was 22 of 34 for 389 and 3 touchdowns. He did have the interception on the 2-point try that, the pick 2, the rare pick 2. So that doesn't count on the box score. And, his receivers had at least 7 drops. So that stat line looks pretty good. Jalen Knighton, 32 carries, 160 yards. That is a warrior performance out of Jalen Knighton right there. We asked him to do too much, and he responded still.
Yep.
And then Charleston Rambo with 7 receptions, 210 yards, 1 touchdown. So there are some positives. We had some nice plays by a few players on defense as well. Overall, the unit kind of struggled. But it's kind of the same 3 guys every week just popping. It's Tyler Van Dyke, it's Charleston Rambo, it's Jalen Knighton. And, they're really showing that they are kind of the cream of the crop, when it comes to ACC football right now. Those 3 guys, probably the best 1-2-3 punch in the ACC right now.
It's been impressive. It really has been. We'll start off here in the beginning of it. We started off hot and fast there. We hit it up 14-0. What do you think ultimately slowed things down for us? Or, was it a philosophical change where we took our foot off the gas a little bit, or was there other factors?
Surprisingly, I was kind of getting into it on Twitter with some people earlier. And this is I guess we could debate what causes this, right? You have the fumble, and then immediately you have who fumbled first? Was it Arroyo or was it Rambo? But it was, I can't remember. I think it was Arroyo's fumble was first, and then they rip off a 70-yard touchdown run right after.
Yeah. Brutal.
So that, you can say the fumble hurt, but also giving up a 70-yard touchdown run, that's unacceptable, right?
They're saying it was Rambo that had the first one here.
Okay, thank you guys. So, and then, then we fumble again. So it was Arroyo second, and then they had the 30-yard touchdown play. Okay, so it was a mix of our offense had the pedal to the floor, good play calling. We were making catches. Everything was going well. It probably should have been 28-0.
Yeah.
But defense just didn't help. And then, once the offense kind of stopped hitting on all cylinders, I think overall was a very good game from the offense. But once they kind of came back down to earth, it was a tough game at that point.
How big is this for Rambo? He had a couple drops, but for him to put up a performance like this in a game that was, like we mentioned, it was a little uglier than we wanted it to be, a tight game, but honestly kind of makes it even a little more clutch for him to come up for this kind of stuff in a close game. How much can he take from this, and how much positive can he move forward with being a 200-plus yard receiver?
Well, I want to touch on Rambo a little bit and kind of expand on this. So on Twitter, I was asking people, Charleston Rambo is the best Miami Hurricanes wide receiver since blank, right? A lot of people were saying Amon Richards. I know everyone, Amon's a beloved figure in the Hurricanes lore, right? Supremely talented, injury, bad luck, career was shortened early. But let me read off to you the run. So in the last 3 games, Rambo's gone 210 yards, 101, 127, and then 2 games before that had 99, and 2 games before that had 156. I think there's a fair argument to say that he's having one of the best seasons in Miami Hurricanes history. He does need to hold on to the ball a little bit. But man, he's electric. He's open on every play, and there's always 15 yards of separation. It's really having Tyler Van Dyke on the team helps because Van Dyke's arm strength and we heard De'Aaron King talk earlier about his legs, right? He hurt his PCL against Alabama, I believe.
Yeah.
And wasn't 100% coming off the ACL anyways. That affects your throw power, right? You need a very sturdy foundation to zip those balls in there. So, considering everything that Charleston Rambo's had to deal with, a hurt quarterback that doesn't have a lot of strength or mobility, you move on to a freshman quarterback getting his first few starts. He's almost at 1,000 yards already. We still got 2 regular season games to play, man. We could play 4 more games. Rambo will easily break that single season receiving record if we play 4 more games. Easily.
I mean, I didn't know the stats as well as you did on that, so I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that he's actually that far along in this process of where he could finish this season at an absolutely historical pace. And I mean, dude, with the issues we had, that's pretty big. Yeah.
So he's what's the record? Isn't it like 1156, I believe? So that would put Rambo at 256 yards away from the record-ish, around there. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and he's doing this, while TVD has been absolutely phenomenal, I think we sometimes forget how young this guy is, bro. He looks like a seasoned vet out there. It's to have this all happen on offense since TVD took over has just been quite a bit of fun to watch, honestly, in that aspect. The defense frustrates the hell out of me. Offensive line still has our issues. Play calling, we still have some issues. But, dude, on the offensive side there, I mean, as far as Rambo goes today, was there anybody else that really stood out to you that helped us out? Was it Knighton, running the ball?
So, yes, and Knighton, I'm actually really worried about him. We ran him 32 times. He did not look okay by the end of the game. Like, Knighton's kind of your classic scat back type player. Like, I don't know if his frame is built for 32 carries. I mean, he should be getting that over 3 weeks, ideally, right? 2.5 to 3 games is 32 carries for Knighton. But he responded, man. 160 yards. I mean, what is that? Like 5.5 yards per carry, something like that. Made big plays. Unfortunately, the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 situation, he doesn't really come away looking good from those. But I would argue we're not putting him in a position to succeed. That's not really his game, is running in between the guards, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that is ideal for Knighton. I think Thad Franklin would be a much better choice for that type of role. But I mean, we asked a lot out of Knighton, and he delivered.
Would you like to see then, speaking of him not really being a between the tackles kind of runner, well, I do believe that he can get some production temporarily in games doing that. Of course, long term, not. Is this where we need to start, getting Thad possibly involved, or Cody Brown's more involved?
Absolutely. I feel like Thad's a more he has a higher ceiling than Cody Brown, right? Cody Brown has looked, he's had some ups and downs. There's been some games where I haven't been overly impressed with what he's done. But he also is a freshman, and he has popped a few times as well. So I would like to see Thad get more involved. I mean, at least give Thad carries so that we can see, right? That's kind of the problem that we've had with these young players is, like, I know they're young, but if you at least pepper them into the rotation, we can judge their on-field performance versus the people that are getting playing time, right? So I would like to see Thad get a few more reps next week.
MDB3000, thank you for the $4.99 donation. He says Cody should not be the primary backup. What do you think about that? Should it be Thad?
I would like to see Thad at least get the opportunity so that we can make a fair judgment. I would lean towards saying yes, but it's hard to say when Thad doesn't get a lot of carries, right?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, running back is one of those positions, unless you're the big home run hitter style like Knighton is, where you can only get a handful of carries and still produce big numbers. You got to have a guy like Thad. He's got to get his hands on the ball multiple times. But we had times today where I would have liked to have seen it. And I'll tell you what, man, the 4th down or the 3rd down call that we was the 4th down. It was the second 4th down call that we blew, right? It was 4th and 1, and then 4th and 1, we blew it. That second time we blew that 4th down, dude, that was frustrating, and that's where I want to see a guy like Thad. Just bring in there and just lower your head and just go nuts.
Even, I mean, you have a quarterback that's like 230, 240 pounds. Like, why not just put him under center and do that old Brady sneak, the Tom Brady special, right?
Good call.
Like,
Good call.
I mean, TVD is huge. He's a big dude, right? I mean, he's bigger than our linebackers are. So why not just get him under center, turn his legs a little bit? There's no way he doesn't get a yard.
I got a question actually for you about TVD and his legs. Today we didn't see quite as much production out of his legs today. He didn't get as the opportunities, or he just didn't take off to do them. How much do you think that impacted our offense today?
I don't know. Our offense is kind of up and down, man. It's like, I don't know. He looks so good sometimes, and then missed a few throws, and I don't know. Overall, I feel like we have to be pretty happy with the performance, though.
What were TVD's final stats in the game there?
It was 22 of 34, I believe. Yeah, 389, 3 touchdowns, and then the 1 interception didn't go on the stat sheet, but it was there. So through that pick, it was gave Georgia Tech 2 points at the end. That was pretty bad.
Yeah. What do you think and as is one specific player that I want to touch base on here, and is a young guy, and it might just have to do with the fact he's young, but what's holding Brashard Smith back, do you think? They brought him in. I only saw him in there once to get the ball in his hands. It was like -1 yards or something like that. What do you think the hesitancy to get him involved in the playbook is?
Man, I mean, that's kind of the golden question, not just for Brashard Smith, but for the whole team at this point. Why haven't we seen more Leonard Taylor? Why haven't we seen more James Williams? Why haven't we seen more Cam Kinchins, Brashard Smith, Jacoby George, Romello Brinson, Thad Franklin? We were just talking about. Elijah Arroyo is another good one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't know, man. That's kind of what we're all sitting around. It's like, hey, these guys are popping when they get opportunity, but we're just not seeing the opportunity. So, I mean, maybe I'd have a better answer if I was able to watch practice. But it's frustrating, man. It really is frustrating. And thankfully, I feel like we've kind of trimmed our wide receiver core down to guys who are really making an impact. I do think that Charleston Rambo is taking a larger share of the load than is ideal, right? I don't think you want to have to have a guy like Rambo go for 150 yards every week.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that dependent on any one player, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Keyshawn Smith had an incredible touchdown catch today. Caught the ball over the middle, fought for an extra 4 yards, got into the end zone. But yeah, man, I would really love to see Brashard Smith, Romello Brinson just be peppered in a little bit. I can't explain it, and it's really frustrating too. It really is.
It's been the big mystery to me on offense, even though we've gotten the ball to start to move more consistently. Just the lack of Brashard Smith being involved still kind of perplexes me. I mean, he's just that kind of speed, and with the progress that we're making on offense, you just think that there would be some chances for him to really, show that speed.
Well, especially when you're giving Jalen Knighton 32 carries.
Yes,
Brashard Smith is the type of guy, like I've compared him to Percy Harvin, where it's like, maybe he's not the kind of guy that you want to hand the ball off to him and send him into the teeth of the line, right?
Yeah.
But run him off tackle, do some end arounds, throw him some screen passes, right? Just get him involved, especially when you're desperate to spell Jalen Knighton a little bit. I just don't see any reason that we're not getting Brashard Smith more involved on short, runs and short passes, right?
Yeah. Now, a good point here that Keyshawn Smith has made a few nice plays the last couple of weeks. I agree with that. We're starting to see him get more involved in the offense. That was something that I think all of us were kind of wondering what was going on, because we saw what he could do already, and then just things weren't just operating properly until TVD really found his legs and found his arm, and the playbook opened up. I mean, that's been the big difference, because you got to remember, Keyshawn Smith, he's basically the classic spread, wide receiver target. He was a Mike Leach project. Mike Leach had him committed to Washington State.
Yep.
Before Mike Leach ended up taking off, he thoroughly had plans to use Keyshawn right away. He had talked about it, that he was a guy that he wanted to use as a freshman. When he went to Mississippi, of course, all that stuff changed. But yeah, it's to me, I think we really hit a home run on that one, dude. We got fortunate there that a guy like Keyshawn was available in that process, and that he should have not been a 3-star. He should have been a 4-star, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're going to see next season. It would be pretty shocking if Charleston Rambo returned for another year. So next season, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think you'll see Keyshawn Smith and Xavier Restrepo, really getting the brunt of the passing attack. Hopefully, we can find a few more guys in there. But I think Keyshawn will prove to be a reliable, kind of outside number one guy.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's going to put up all ACC numbers next year is a different conversation. But I don't think we're going to be upset with him being a focal point of the offense next year. He really has shown he's shown some incredible flashes, right? I mean, he had the drop today. He's been a little inconsistent. But I think overall he's an incredible prospect, right? I think his ceiling is very high as a starting receiver here at Miami.
How do you feel as far as, a guy like Rambo probably taking off after this year? Do you feel comfortable with the progressions you're seeing from a guy like Keyshawn and other guys to maybe go, well, we can still make this offense move?
It's going to hurt, but yeah, we should be able to make it move. I mean, it's really going to hurt, because Hartley has been really disappointing this year.
Yeah.
But he's a security blanket. I mean, he caught that first touchdown today, right?
Yeah.
So I think, him being the veteran leader and then also losing. So we're going to lose kind of the leader of this room, and then we're going to lose the guy who we're kind of hanging our hat on to carry our passing offense, right? I mean, more than half of Tyler Van Dyke's yards went to Charleston Rambo this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if you went over the last 3 games if that held true as well. So it is going to hurt, but I think Manny's done a good job of stacking talent. We talked about those 3 true freshman wide receivers that are really good. We got Xavier Restrepo. Elijah Arroyo, I think, will be pretty good next year. And then because of Jalen Knighton's rushing load this year, we haven't seen him pass catching out of the backfield as much, but he's incredibly dangerous as a pass catcher as well. So I think when you get Don Chaney back, he's going to, almost look like Alvin Kamara, right? I mean, obviously not that level, but I think you're going to see some, you can use Jalen Knighton the way that the Saints use Alvin Kamara, right? You can throw him the ball 7 times a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, part of that hesitancy is to, like you've mentioned already, to not overload him. We know he's not the physically biggest guy in the world. We want to make sure that he's available for us for the rest of the season. Simply put, I mean, we kind of need him available for us for the rest of the season. How did you feel about the offensive line performance today?
Not great. Well,
yeah.
I mean, they did enough. I wouldn't call it a great performance, but they, we got Knight went for 160 yards. Tyler Van Dyke had a few nice runs as well. But overall, it's just been kind of a sloppy few weeks for the offensive line.
Yeah.
I will say, though, it is not like the dumpster fire that we've seen at times with a lot of these same guys, right? So I would overall grade our offensive line as below average, but not horrible. And I think that's kind of how they played today.
Do you think that this is still the lineup we want to stick with then? Because like you said, we've seen it even worse. I hate to say that, but so is this the lineup we want to stick with? Because even a mediocre line is better than what we've dealt with the last couple of years on a consistent basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think when you consider 2 years ago, we were 120th. Last year we were 90th. And I don't know exactly what we are right now, but I would guess that it's higher than 90th. I think you got to feel like progress is progress, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's not as much as you want to see, it's still progress.
My worry was those 4th down calls that we had and the fact we couldn't get them. That worried me with the offensive line. There's no reason why we shouldn't get a push against a team like Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And this is not a good Georgia Tech defense, guys. Yeah. I mean, this is a mediocre to bad Georgia Tech defense with really no superstar anywhere on the field.
Yep.
It was kind of mind-blowing to me that we couldn't get that push. Is that concerning to you?
Absolutely. That's a great point. So one of the aspects of college football recruiting is that the teams like Miami and better, right? The programs like Miami and then up, they're going to have a recruiting advantage because a lot of recruiting out of high school is pure size, right? Like
Pretty much.
When there's a defensive tackle that's already 290 pounds of muscle and he's 6'3" and he's coming out of high school, chances are he's going to have every offer, right? Like there's no reason for him to go to a school like Georgia Tech, right? So there's an inherent advantage in the trenches for the big time schools, which I think Miami should still be towards the bottom of that category. Hopefully, like there's no reason that we're losing in the trenches on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 to Georgia Tech. It just doesn't even make sense, honestly.
Yeah. MDB 3000 with another donation. Thank you again.
Thank you.
He says, last super chat of the night. There is no way Flagg is our best option at middle linebacker. He lacks the ability to react. No way Troutman and Brooks can be worse. Dude, I can't argue with that at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing is I'm not going to say that you're wrong about Flagg, but we've seen some pretty bad linebacker play the last 2 years, man. Like I don't know if we can say that anyone's much better than he is, right?
So you think Flagg actually hasn't been as much of a problem as a lot of fans, huh?
That's not exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I just think the whole room is a catastrophic problem.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
I was wrong. I was a believer in Flagg. I thought they'd have a really solid year, and that's wrong. He's been pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But the problem is like what linebackers besides like Keyshawn Smith has been solid. What linebackers not named Keyshawn Smith have been better than terrible in the last 2 years, 3 years?
It's been a progression heading downwards, basically.
That's kind of my point. Is like I agree that Flagg is not cutting it, but at this point, it's like I don't know what our options are.
Now, wouldn't it just be like worth it to at least explore possibly bringing in somebody with more speed, while they might not be as apt or what they want to consider as experienced of a linebacker? Would it not hurt to let some of these guys with the real sideline to sideline speeds get a little burn?
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, that's kind of the overall theme that we've been talking about this episode is like, we haven't seen enough Troutman this year. Why not give him the opportunity to prove that Flagg should be playing over him? Right? I mean, if you know that Flagg isn't working, if he's missing gaps on run support and then they bust off a 70-yard touchdown, like how can you walk away from that feeling like, hey, you know what? I'm comfortable with how many reps he's getting. Like we should be peppering in Troutman and Chase Smith and any of these other guys.
Yeah, the Chase Smith one kind of boggles my mind because we know he's got the size and athleticism to already be making an impact. I'd love to see him out there. I would be kind of curious. I'd love to know what's holding him back. If it's just not understanding the playbook, if something else is like inherently like really, really wrong in practice they can't fix yet. But dude, I mean, it worked on offense. It worked on offense.
Playbook?
What?
Is there a
playbook
on defense?
I
mean,
they like to say experience. They don't like to say that they don't know the playbook. They like to say experience.
Well, I get you though, but I'm just saying there's been a lot of people saying that there isn't really a playbook on defense. Like now I'm not professing to be the greatest X's and O's guy. But yeah, like the excuses kind of run dry, right? If there isn't a playbook to learn, and it's like, he's way more physically gifted and has his head on straight, it's like, why aren't we even seeing any of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about our tight ends today? Did you think Mallory, had a couple of decent catches there? Do you think Arroyo even got enough chances?
For sure. So Mallory had that really nice catch on, I believe it was 3rd down over the middle, had to fully extend, pulled it in, kept the chains moving. So, I mean, I think we were hoping that Mallory would be like day 2 NFL draft material or better this year. I think we were all kind of expecting that because of his measurables, right?
Yeah.
He's a big dude. He can move. There's really no reason that he shouldn't have had 700-800 yards receiving this year. So he didn't play bad, but it's still kind of a letdown, right? So he made a nice catch. Like Arroyo had the fumble, but Arroyo's been pretty solid. Like our tight end play needs some work, but I do think that I don't think it's a problem moving forward, right? Like I think this is probably going to be our worst tight end room in the next 3 years. I think it's just going to go up.
Arroyo just flat out getting more experience and more chances. I think he's, even though we've been trying to find that more traditional tight end, and why we went with Mallory and added that extra weight, to have him block and do that and go for pass catches, I truly believe that we're going to really stick Arroyo into that pass catching role more, especially since we have a guy like Mammarelli around who can handle some of the dirty work.
Yeah, and Mallory doesn't block anyways, so I don't even know why we tried to do that.
That's the whole thing. Like they put that weight on him to make him more of a traditional tight end, but yet it never happened. It just didn't happen.
Completely uninterested in blocking.
Yeah.
Like it's an effort problem at that. It's not technique. It's not skill. It's just like, does he want to put his face mask up against a defensive end's face mask? And he does not.
It's become a waste, absolute waste. Then if that was going to be the case, just keep him light, keep him mobile, and keep him athletic, because we saw what kind of weapon he was in high school. We saw what he was as a freshman even. He was a lot more mobile on his feet, a lot lighter on his feet.
Yeah.
So, dude, I mean, I hate to think that that's one of the few times in Miami Hurricanes history, even with our struggles, that we might have mismanaged a tight end that had some decent upside, because usually we knock it out the park on that stuff. Even even a Brevin Jordan type, while it might not have been exactly what everybody wanted, it was still, dude, he made plays. There's no doubt about it, dude. And he's in the NFL doing the same thing right now.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want to hit on offense before we move to defense?
Well, I want to ask you a question, because this is kind of the debate on Twitter, right?
Okay.
So at what point does fumbling become a coaching problem? Right? Because that was kind of the debate that I was having with people. I was kind of pointing towards coaching. I mean, you can't just blame everyone, or you can't blame somebody 100% for a problem, right? There's context, it's deeper, but I'm thinking like, man, when you are having when fumbling looks contagious, it makes me wonder what's going on in practice. When nobody looks focused, when there's miscommunication, when there's fumbling, when there's missed kicks, when there's missed tackles, when there's bad play calling, it makes me wonder, like, how are you practicing, right? I mean, I know that we don't do a ton of contact in practice, so
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's where these fumbles are coming from, but I do want your opinion on that. Is 3 different players having key fumbles? Is that when you start to be like, well, if everyone's fumbling, then it might be an institutional problem, right? Or a systematic problem.
Yeah, especially since it's kind of been staggered along the way. It's not like we have one guy who just fumbles all the time. We have a myriad of guys who have had issues throughout the season, while some of them, of course, haven't been consistent. The fact is, it seems to be showing up far too often still regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a philosophical issue with them at practice. Like you said, we're not as physical as maybe we should be. I don't know if it's an actual ball carrying technique that the RB coach has them going through, or that the wide receiver coach might have them going through. But I just I don't know, man. It's tough to watch some of that stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have a game from hell, and this could have been ours. But the problem is that when you start 2-4, you burn up a lot of, if not all of, the positive equity that you have as a coaching staff, right? When people are projecting you to go 10-2, and granted, no one knew that Michigan State would be a top 3 or 4 team. So okay, 3 losses immediately becomes acceptable with context, right?
Yeah.
But when you start 2-4, and you lost to a very mediocre North Carolina team, and you also lost to average at best Virginia team, like, you're burning up all your positive equity. So when the game from hell comes around, people are just like, no, not doing it today. So it's kind of I don't want to come across like I'm saying this is all on the coaching staff, but at the same time, it's like, this isn't an aberration, right? It's not when that, a few years ago when Clemson was a juggernaut and they lost to Syracuse. It's not that. This isn't out of left field. This is I mean, maybe the 7th time that we showed up to play this year, and we're just like,
Yeah.
like kind of looked half interested.
It seems to be a little bit reckless ball carrying issues is what I've noticed. Guys just not having their head on a swivel or having awareness. When I was frustrated at that Rambo one because Rambo had absolutely no clue that guy was behind him. Yeah. He had no idea that he needed to wrap up in that instance or at least, brace for any type of a hit. He was still kind of just casually strolling along, it looked like. Yeah. That's what kind of I hate to see that because we both know he's a better player than that. We both know that he understands the importance of that kind of a move. So hopefully it's something he just keeps learning from, though. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, I'm sure he will because, he's going to be catching footballs on Sundays next year.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, probably a lot of footballs. Like, he's a special talent.
Yep.
There's not many guys that, I mean, you see 15 yards of separation every time the camera pans downfield to where the ball's going, So, I mean, he's like Philip Dorsett with hands. So
with hands.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty incredible to watch him play.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Anything else you wanted to hit there on the offensive side before we move on over?
Defense, man. The dumpster fire that is our defense.
Yeah. I'm going to start off here. Well, we usually start off with tight ends, or not tight, but secondary and linebackers. I want to start off with the defensive line this time. What did you see today, or what did you not see from this defensive line that was there anything missing that you really wanted to see that didn't happen?
So it was kind of, it's a tough game to judge because that Sims kid, like the Georgia Tech quarterback, not very good, right? I do think we were I think we got an okay amount of pressure. We had some really nice plays by like Leonard Taylor blowing stuff up in the backfield.
Young guy.
Andre Johnson had a really nice strip sack that unfortunately we didn't recover it, but it was still a really nice play. So I actually thought the defensive line did pretty good. I think the problem came from that there was no second level support from the linebackers. So he just kept dumping the ball off to Gibbs, who apparently is LaDainian Tomlinson. And just, I mean, how many receiving yards did Gibbs have? Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he had over 100.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, he's the guy that I referred to as their little ball of energy or their little ball of fire. Yeah. If they get him going on offense, man, it's kind of an issue. We saw what happens, especially when he starts to feel kind of in a groove or that offense starts to feed around him. It's an issue.
He's really good. Like when our defense was on the field and their offense he looked like the best player on the entire field all night, which is saying something because, Leonard Taylor, James Williams, Tyreek Stevenson, like we do have some ballers, even though we've struggled overall as a unit. And that's one thing that I wanted to get your take on is explain to us how something like that happens, right? You have James Williams, you have Cam Kinchens, you have Avonte Williams making plays, you have Tyreek Stevenson, you have Leonard Taylor making plays. The defensive line's getting pressure. Okay, how does that not translate to good defense? Because we are seeing guys pop and absolutely have Sports Center type plays. How does that not translate to a good defensive unit?
It's difficult, dude, because, defense is one of those things to where everybody has to play their role pretty much. The defensive line is one of those few spots there where you can actually dominate from that standpoint. And it might help out some of your weak linebackers. But the issue is that if our defensive line isn't dominating, our linebackers are just basically cooked before the even play happens. And then we've still got guys taking really bad angles in the secondary when we do get big runs going on. I'm not sure what the issue with angles is. It was something with Bubba Bolden before he got hurt. James Williams took a couple bad angles today. I hate to say it, but I'm not doing nothing but praise the guy. But
he needs to wrap up, man. And yeah, like I get it. As a fan base, I think we all are treating James Williams like he's a treasure, which I mean he is in a sense, right? He's an incredible 5-star athlete that's a physical freak. None of us want to critique him because we're just happy that he's here, right? And we all know that he's going to be probably a first-round pick in the NFL. He's a freak. But you're right. He took some bad angles today. He hasn't been wrapping up when he's tackling. We can critique him while still saying he's probably the best thing that's happened to our recruiting in a decade or more, right? I mean, he's probably the most important recruit to come here since Duke Johnson, honestly.
Yeah. today's defensive performance, regardless of some of the positives that I might be trying to flip here on the offensive side, today's performance on defense, win or loss, just made it clear to me that Manny Diaz still isn't the guy for us, dude. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, he's just not the right head coach to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
Who knows what can happen in some of these next games, because we're playing teams that actually have more talent. We better show up, because if we get embarrassed on any of this stuff, dude, with how fragile our recruiting class is right now, not a good look, man. That was just something I wanted to point out there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I know we're trying to focus on some of the good stuff that happened today, but overall, I think today was just more evidence that we don't have the right situation with coaching. There's how do you blow a 14-point lead where you are just absolutely hammering their defense, right? Like we looked unstoppable on the first two possessions. And then the game slipped away, man. Like, how does that even happen? How is it that there's a minute left in the game and we're holding on for dear life? We're
against a bad team.
Yeah, and it's like without a holding call at the end of the game, what would have happened? Or without that, they missed a pass interference call. I think that was Georgia Tech's second to last drive, so there was like 3 minutes left. But Cam Kinchins should have been flagged for PI on the right side of the field when they would have got a first down. And didn't. And it's really kind of embarrassing that we are just really having to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps to beat below average teams. So
we fumbled 3 straight plays. You wasn't watching the game, just critique Manny. We just spent this entire whole time talking about the team and not Manny. I'm not sure what you're getting at there, bro. Sorry.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think you just have to talk about the whole thing, right?
That's what we're trying to do, yeah.
Yeah, the defense has not been good all year, right?
Not at all.
Who's our defensive coordinator?
Manny Diaz.
Who's been recruiting our defensive players for 6 years, man?
Manny Diaz.
Who's been the head coach over the embarrassing losses at FIU, Louisiana Tech, North Carolina last year, Oklahoma State last year, Alabama this year? Just games where it's like we just didn't even show up to play, right? Like, obviously, we're going to lose games. I recognize that.
Yeah.
But I don't think the University of Miami should ever get blown out repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Stuff happens. If we're having a really great year and we get blown out one game, that's fine. Mental lapse, okay? But when it is a pattern, when there's an established pattern across 3 years of showing up not to play, looking undisciplined, looking disinterested, losing games after a bye, that's a great – it's hard for me to have confidence, man.
Regardless of what happens on offense, I don't really think that has a whole lot to do with Manny at all as the head coach. I think that we've talked about this before, Jordan. These weren't the moves that he wanted. He was forced into making these moves through various different reasons. He was forced into it. One of them being possibly losing his damn job, a couple being injuries, but a lot of it was a lot of pressure, being forced to just, hey, we got to try something different, because if we keep losing the same way, we are going to get fired. Yeah. So, I'm worried for the fact that we just got done beating 2 top 25 teams. Yeah. We had momentum. We had what was looking like things that were turning around, and then we laid an egg against a very mediocre to bad team today and had to be in a dogfight to beat them at home. That's my concern, and it just shows me there's no consistency with Manny. We never show up. We never show up hardly and play great football against bad teams. Just every once in a while we do that. I don't get that.
Well, if you could talk for just a second, I want to actually pull up our schedule so that I can see the margin of victory that we've had, because that's actually a point that – okay, so we beat App State by 2 points, lost to Virginia by 2, lost to UNC by 3, beat NC State by 1, beat Pitt by 4, beat Georgia Tech by 3 today. That should be a little concerning, right? Is that even when we win, we're just barely getting by. I don't think good football teams do that.
No, not at all. Not with teams like the talent that we have against the teams that we're playing against. The ACC is the worst I've ever seen the ACC since we've dealt with this. Honestly, it's the worst. Yeah. We had the golden opportunity to take advantage and actually without Clemson being in the way, basically, and get that ACC title that we've been so desperately dreaming about. I mean, the ACC's been a nightmare for Miami this entire time. It's been a bad experiment, and it's been a nightmare. And we had our shot this year, and it's frustrating to know that we're still not quite where I thought we were. I was hoping for a little more, Jordan, and I guess I feel a little just kind of Teddy. I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, didn't we have? Correct me if I'm wrong here. Didn't we have 11 starters back on offense?
Yes.
And 9 starters back on defense.
Yep. Tons of experience.
And we went 8-3 last year. So, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, that should say it all, right? You get back 20 starters from an 8-3 season, and you start 2-4. That should say it all, man. Like, we had experience, okay? We had guys that have won games, right? And to be consistent, like I've critiqued that 8-3 record a little bit, right? I've talked about how we weren't beating good teams. We were taking care of business against bad teams, but now we're not doing that again, right? We're not taking care of business against bad teams, and that should be extremely worrying to people.
Yeah, I mean it's that word, and I hate saying it over and over. It's consistency. Manny Diaz has no consistency in his coaching process or coaching philosophies that can be an upside to us week by week. I mean, I thought when I was making my prediction earlier this week before this game went on, I thought that if we won by 10 or more, that wasn't a bad thing for us. I didn't think we were going to win by a lot just because it just felt like one of those odd games. It just felt like I had that bad feeling.
Well, that's every week now, dude. That's just every week now.
But don't you want to be able to, like, as fans, we just had 2 top 25 wins. We just beat Pitt, a team that we really didn't think we were going to beat. We beat them, but yet we have no hope still. I mean, there are some fans, don't get me wrong. There's the Manny fans out there, and by all means, you guys can handle it however you want to. It's just predominantly from the fan base, I see very, very little hope, even after winning these 3 games.
Well, what's there to be confident about, man? I mean, I don't want to get too negative, but let's just be straight honest, okay? Like, yes, we recruited some ballers this year, okay? But look at the Al Golden era, man. We had ballers there too. I mean, we had a defensive backfield full of guys that are still playing in the NFL, right? Corn Elder, Sheldrick Redwine, Jaquan Johnson, Adrian Colbert, okay? Like, all those guys made it to the league, okay? And yet, how did those defenses turn out? Anthony Chickalo, Denzel Perryman, I could keep going, right? So, like, I'm excited about our young guys too, but just because we have guys that pop does not mean anything's going to come of it. I mean, you really have to have good infrastructure. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you need infrastructure and then talent on top of the infrastructure. And my worry is that I have severe concerns about our infrastructure.
I haven't seen anything even after beating a team like Pitt that made me change my mind. While I can see the positives and I can see the difference between what the early season for Miami looked like compared to now, and yes, we have made positives, but the biggest issue, and you've touched on it already here, our head coach is our defensive coordinator, and that's the absolute worst side of our team right now. I mean, if the offense is carrying this team right now, far too often anyways, far too often.
Yeah, it's been bad every year of Diaz as a head coach. And he's a defense guy, right? Like, I know he brought in Blake Baker, but Baker came in and ran Manny's defense, right? He is a Manny prodigy, okay? Patke's a Manny prodigy. Banda's a Manny prodigy, okay? So Manny had his guys here to run his defense, okay? And now Manny is running his own defense. And it's just been struggles, man. It really has been struggles. So, I mean, I wish I had the right answer of where to go here, but, and it's not like the offense has looked way better since we had De'Aaron King in, Tyler Van Dyke. But do we remember how bad it looked for the first 5 games of the season? The offense was terrible with De'Aaron King to start the year. The play calling was terrible. The execution was terrible.
The play calling,
Yeah, and I'm not putting that all on King either. We talked about his injuries, right? Hurt shoulder, hurt PCL, recovering probably came back too soon from his ACL injury.
Yes.
So I'm not blaming him. But what I'm saying is, like, we're 4 weeks removed from having a terrible offense too.
Dude, we're so close to having this season be a complete disaster, which, and here's the thing. There's got to be some kind of props given to the fact that to pull a team out of the gutter, to pull a team out of the depths, and to get some wins against some decent teams at a time that was just desperate as hell, especially with recruiting on the line.
Yep.
I can appreciate that, Jordan. Yeah. I can appreciate that. While I'm not going to agree with how we've exactly won or how we've managed the entire process, I am proud of our young players. I'm proud of our young guys. I'm seeing fight that I didn't see earlier this season. I'm seeing guys put it on the line when they didn't put it on the line earlier this season.
Yeah. Well, so I guess that is the best thing that Manny has done, right? Is these last few weeks have proven that, all other things aside, his players really like him. They really want to fight for him. They really want him to succeed. And that's not for nothing, right? I'm not trying to write that off. I'm not trying to say that's worthless, whatever. But it just comes down to, like, you got to make your list of pros and cons, man. And the on-field product needs to say that, needs to make the final decision, right? And so I think it's a really great thing that the guys are fighting for him. It's impressive. Okay, they love their coach. They'll go to war for him, but I don't know, man. Like, it's still not very pretty. It's kind of ugly, anyways. And you need more than just guys that fight for you. You, like we said, you need infrastructure, you need talent, you need direction, you need discipline. Okay, like, all those things are just as good, if not better, than guys that go out and give 105%, 110%.
Is there, and this is, for the chat here too, and this is, I'm not saying that I agree with this or that it needs to happen. It's just a mere question because I kind of want to gauge the fan base and gauge your opinion on it. Right. Is there anything that Diaz can do to close this season out that would make you feel comfortable with him being our head coach next year? Could he flip the script anywhere and be a different guy, or what? Yeah.
Well, there is no circumstances where I don't have my guard up, right? Where I'm at now, like, trying to think of the right allegory. Like, this is a relationship where boundaries that should not have been crossed have been crossed. Okay. And so, can he extend this relationship? Yes. Am I ever going to feel secure in this relationship? It's going to be tough. Okay. So if Manny wins out, okay, we win the ACC championship, and that puts us in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
If we win the Orange Bowl, even though it probably won't be my first choice, like, you just have to bring Manny Diaz back, right? And I mean, I've been saying that for a long time. I was saying last year, we just needed a New Year's Six bowl game, okay? We needed to get there, because how can you say that Miami's back, or that we're the new Miami, or that we have any shot of being a blue chip program when we've been to one New Year's Six bowl in 16 years or 17 years or something like that? Yeah. Like, that just doesn't even compute, okay? Dan Mullen has coached Florida for what? This is his fourth year, and he's been to 2 already? 3? Has he been to 3?
At least 2.
Mario Cristobal has been coaching Oregon. I think this is his 4th year, and he's going to win the Pac-12 for his 4th straight year. He's been to how many Rose Bowls? Like, what are we really doing here, right? So if Manny can get us to a New Year's Six bowl, he gets us to the Orange Bowl, especially if we win, he's going to come back, and that'll probably be the right move. Just because things can change, you can figure it out, right? But as a fan, I'm going to have my guard up, right? And as soon as we see this same type of shenanigans that have been happening for the next 3 years, I'm going to be ready to pull the plug. Even if he wins the Orange Bowl, he will start the year on the hot seat for me. You just can't start 2-4, man. You just can't. When you're bringing back. So someone corrected me. It was 19 returning starters. Yeah. You can't do that when you have 19 returning starters after an 8-3 year. You just cannot start 2-4. I don't care. Start 4-2. Okay, and then we'll be looking back at it like, well, it was Alabama, well, it was Michigan State, but we started 4-2. Okay, fine.
We're all feeling a lot better if that was the situation. We're all talking in a lot more positive light about this whole season if that's what was going on.
Well, yeah, that's a hell of a lot better than 2-4, man. So I don't know.
My thing is while we could close it out good in the ACC, we've won a lot of ACC games. Manny's proven he can do that. I have to see a bowl win, dude. I have to see Manny beat a Power 5 opponent from outside the ACC. I have to see it because it's just something we haven't seen it. We literally have not seen it, so I don't know if it can happen. I want him kind of prove me wrong on that aspect. I don't know if I believe he can do it after everything I've seen with all the issues he has preparing for them, and we're talking about a bowl. That's another scenario where he's going to have extra time to prepare. What happens when Manny Diaz has a bye week and extra time to prepare?
He gets out coached. That's what happens.
Yeah.
When there's extra time to prepare, we're always on the losing side of that, dude. I mean,
I got it.
I'm a Jazz fan. I know exactly what that's like. Okay, when I'm in a playoff series and Quinn Snyder has time to prepare, both coaches have time to game plan, I know I'm losing that battle. Okay, and that's how it is with Manny Diaz too.
I got a question here from Diego. He says, Fresh, what have you heard about recruits and even current young guys leaving if Manny gets canned? Talking with recruits, the biggest thing has been confusion with them, guys. They don't know what's happening at Miami. Some of these guys have even gotten to the point where they've lost contact with Miami. Miami got back in contact with them and then lost contact and got back. So, I mean, that's very confusing for some of these guys, especially 2023 kids who've still got more time to think about this stuff. As of right now, everything I've heard from recruits so far, to answer your question, is nobody's planning on necessarily abandoning ship from Miami if Manny Diaz gets fired. But the concern is that it could still happen, and the concern is that it could happen in the this current freshman class we already have with all that talent.
Yeah,
that's the issue with that right there. But the recruiting class, they just want to see us win, and they want to see a commitment to winning. If Manny Diaz happens to be the guy, Manny Diaz happens to be the guy. If it happens to be Mario Cristobal, it happens to be Mario Cristobal. Yeah. They just want to see Miami win, and until we do, they don't trust it, and I don't blame them one bit.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, man. And we talked about a few weeks ago. We really got into like the Julio Frank and Blake James situation, and I do want to comment on that real quick. There's inside reports. I wish I could credit who did it, and I can't remember, but it's not me. I don't profess to be an insider. I read it on Twitter or on 247 or something, where they said that Julio Frank has committed to start using booster money for the football program, right? That's huge. And that's all we can ask for, right? Is that, I was really pissed at Julio Frank earlier in the season because I'm like, dude, you're negligent towards the football team.
Yes.
You're negligent. And that is like the football team is more important to the university's brand than you health is. I know the money is not that way, but
the logo.
But brand, authority, recognition, that's all important too.
Yep.
Okay. And so the fact that he's reversing the old Donna Shalala policy where the athletic program had to be self-sufficient, now they're going to start using booster money and some hospital money to make the football program better. Now we could start to see some stuff, especially if you see a change at athletic director. Okay. And then you see the budget for the coaches go up, right? It remains to be seen whether or not we'll have a change at head coach if that happens. But that's the type of stuff that could really change recruits because I don't blame them. I mean, Miami, dude, our brand, our aura, like the U is running on fumes right now. It's running on fumes, man, because we haven't done anything worthwhile in a long time, okay? And thankfully, we still have enough brand recognition that we're just sputtering along on the freeway while everyone else is passing us, right? And but we're still there. So I'm hoping that we can make the changes in time so that we're not totally dead on arrival.
It's about putting the right people at the right place in the university. It's about a full change at the top. It's about a commitment to winning football. Just funneling some money isn't enough to me. while I'm happy about it and I know it's part of the process we have to have, it's not enough for me, dude. I need football minds injected into the right places whether it's AD, whether maybe Miami can't, maybe they just can't let go of Blake James, maybe because he's such a good fundraiser. I'm just saying, maybe such a good fundraiser, they don't want to let go of him. So bring in a guy to run football operations, so you take that crap away from Blake James, maybe. But just something. And that's not the route I want to go. I want an AD that has a football mind. I do. But anything I'll take especially towards the top, involved in the university.
Well, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can get creative with that. You don't have to fire Blake James to get him away from athletics, right?
Yeah.
Give him a promotion to be the executive officer of fundraising, okay? And tell him it's a promotion, right? You've been promoted, Blake. All you need to worry about is fundraising now, right? And now you're the whatever, right?
We're paying you a lot of money to just fundraise. That's not a bad job.
I know, right? So, you can spin this a few ways, but Kyle Branch pointed out, scholastics have been bad, athletics have been bad. I'm not trying to say that Frank is good now. What I'm saying is the least that we can ask from people is self-awareness.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And even though he has been negligent in the past, at least he is aware enough to be like, hey, I really fumbled the bag. Okay. I did a bad job of being a CEO. I should not have put blind faith into Blake James. And now he's waking up and realizing, okay, we need to overhaul the way that we approach athletics as a university. In my opinion, that is all you can ask of someone, right? If they're still not cut out for the job, that's a different thing. But at least he is, in my opinion, self-awareness is the biggest marker of someone who's intelligent and someone who can be successful, right? Yeah. And Frank is at least showing that. And, it's remains to be seen whether or not he can totally turn his tenure around. But I think we're starting to build the infrastructure, right? You get that money down first, okay? And then you just have to start lining up. You have to put alpha dogs at every spot. Like you said, football minds, okay?
Yes.
So you get the right athletic director in, okay? And then you get the right coaching staff in. And then you start winning games. And I don't want to hear about recruiting before that because guys like Luke Fickell don't need recruiting classes to win games. They're just great coaches, okay?
Fair enough.
That happens. You see it everywhere, right? What was Chris Peterson? How many games did he win at Boise State? How many games did Gary Patterson win at TCU? Okay. Yeah. How many games did Bronco Mendenhall win at BYU? Okay. So I don't want to hear this that we need to stack classes, all that stuff. You build a good program, you start winning games, and then the talent shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would kids not come here? Yeah. Why would kids not come to Miami if we're winning games?
We have seen at Miami, and especially in recruiting, we don't need to just take off on a rocket ship to get recruits interested. We just need a little bit of hype, and we need to manipulate the hype and work with it properly, basically. I've seen us do it before. Even just coming off of remotely successful seasons, getting a ton of hype in the offseason that ultimately fizzles out when the next season starts. That's been the issue. And that's something that recruits have talked to me about before, is that the lack of consistency in that is that, okay, well, Manny Diaz, you guys close the season out and you win. That's great. Is he going to start next season like he started this season? And those are the kind of questions I'm still getting from some of these 2022 kids. They're worried.
Yeah, I think that's a cultural problem around the program, is that we're so eager to take a victory lap when we really haven't done anything. Cool. We win the turnover portal or the transfer portal every year. Okay. But, Tate Martell, Jared Williams, some of these guys don't really work out like we wanted them to. Okay. So why not? We just got to start being humble, man. We got to start being humble. Obviously you can be excited and you can get pumped about doing what you think is the right thing, but to just take a victory lap and then not back it up, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. And I don't blame the recruits that say that that's stupid, because it is stupid, right?
Well, what's sad is that there was outright enthusiasm and excitement about the turnover chain when it was first coming around, especially when I was talking with recruits. And now they've seen it, though. They've seen when we put it on and we're down by 27 or whatever, when we put it on. It's lost a lot of its luster, dude, unfortunately. And that was whether it's a gimmick or – oh, actually, I can't say whether it's a gimmick or not. It is a flat-out gimmick.
Yeah. I
should just say that bluntly. It is a flat-out gimmick.
Yeah.
All gimmicks wear their time. They all eventually start to get discovered. The blueprint comes out on how to stop it. Yeah. And then usually the coach running that kind of stuff simply isn't good enough to do anything else because that's why he's operating a gimmick like the turnover chain. Dude, the turnover ring or the touchdown rings, bro, I can't stand them.
They're stupid.
I can't stand the rings. I get the idea of the turnover chain. I get it. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
But, dude, no, man, it just gimmicky stuff. Not having faith that the team is going to win, or not just win big, but follow through the next season and win as well like they're supposed to. These are the concerns, dude, and it's just over and over and over again. And I've actually talked to quite a few 2022 recruits' dads lately because they've said, hey, the recruits have hit me up and said, hey, man, my dad kind of wants to talk to you, wants to ask some questions about Miami. So I've been having to ask questions about Miami to our 2022 recruiting targets, and it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable thing. I just tell them, commit to a school, don't commit to a staff. It's about the best thing I can say. But, dude, it's not comfortable, some of these questions that they're asking me all the time, man. They're tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the turnover chain should have been gone a few years ago. But I don't know, man. It's kind of fatiguing having to talk about this all the time, It's like the cultural issues in the program are a problem. It's like, I don't know. We're just so eager to pat ourselves on the back that it's always premature, And
is that why we can't have consistent winning? Because we really don't know what the hell it takes?
It could be. I mean, dude, we're letting all the air out of our balloon before we even, reach our destination.
Yeah.
Right?
Good way of saying it, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's frustrating.
We win the off season. We don't win the regular season. Yeah. We have a little bit of success last year during an odd season in football in general. We got 2 really great recruits out of it.
Yeah.
But yet issues arise immediately. All the hype was completely sucked out of the building and the program with our early season performances. And it's something that recruits flat out see. Their parents see it and they see it. And they keep a tab on it because they want to go to the right school for them. These are kids that have NFL futures possibly. They don't want to be at a school that can't develop them.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep that level of intensity from everyone within the program and around the program. It's hard to be intense 12 months out of the year, man.
Yeah.
Like we are, we are spending all of our intensity in the off season, trying to brag like, hey, we're relevant, and then we lose a game, and I feel like we're deflated after, It's because it's like, hey, like, I didn't know that this was going to be a grind. I don't think we're committed. I don't think we're committed to grinding for success.
There's some coaches that don't like that whole year grind,
Well, dude, I mean, winning the offseason is cheap, okay? And it's easy. Winning the offseason is way easier than winning the actual season, So I think we're trying to take the easy way out. We're trying to, make our victory lap, hang a banner,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. I mean,
Fair
I saw
point.
the Miami Heat hung a banner for Bam getting an Olympic medal. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. That's the participation trophy culture that we're in right now, dude.
Way to pat yourself on the back. You played 20 minutes a game with, for the USA team.
It used to be titles and titles only would get hung up in those situations, and that's the way it should be, in my opinion.
Yep.
RF the Great here. He says, fatiguing, yes, but we have to talk about it because the program is like a Christmas present wrapped all nice with nothing in the box. He's referring to how it can be tiring for us sometimes to have to go over these same things, but he made a fair point there. I mean, the reality is that we have to repeat ourselves because it's happening, guys.
Yeah.
There's other ways to approach it. There's other ways we can look at it, and we're going to be, working on finding new ways and new angles to try to look at this stuff. But as it is right now, we're all kind of sitting in the same boat when it comes to this, and it's just we don't trust Manny. We don't know what the hell's even going to happen next week. I have no clue what's going to happen next week, honestly. I have absolutely no clue. And so we're all worried that this could just fall apart as fast as it's come together.
Yeah. Next week is an enigma,
What do you think about next week?
I don't know. Norval has had a very maligned tenure at Florida State, but they've popped a few times, man. Like I don't know if it's just that, Florida State benefits from getting the same caliber of talent that we do. I know that they're struggling lately, right? But they still have guys on their roster that could play and start for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard to say. I don't watch their games enough to know whether it's that they have some talent and can be frisky, or if it's that Mike Norvell is actually doing some stuff over there, Yeah. So I'm not sure really what to expect next year.
Next week?
Yeah, sorry. Next week. I'm not sure what to expect. I am very worried about it, though.
I guess from a percentage standpoint, are you worried like a 50-50% chance we can lose? Are you a little more confident than that? Or are you just like right there 50-50 just lost? That's where I'm
absolutely lost. I don't even know where to start talking about this game, okay? Because, Tyler Van Dyke has looked good, okay? But the FSU-Miami rivalry is an entirely different animal, okay? And so he's been dynamite. I honestly, how much credit do you give to Rhett Lashley for how the offense is played? And how much credit do you just give to the three guys we've been talking about, Knighton, Rambo, and Van Dyke?
Yeah,
for
seriously.
Just being incredible football players, which they all are.
Seriously.
Because Lashley has still been making some questionable calls. Our defense is completely undependable. Completely undependable. You can't ask our defense to do anything and be able to hang your hat on it. So I don't know what to expect, man. I'm hoping that we can win. It's important that we win. If we lose to FSU this year, it will be the final coffin in Manny Diaz, or the final nail in the coffin for Manny Diaz. I don't see how he can survive a loss to FSU.
Peanut here said, if we lose to FSU, Manny needs to be fired on the spot. I felt that way about a couple games this year already, but I'll tell you what, we lose to FSU after what we did to him last year and what FSU's still going through with their issues, and we don't win this game.
Yeah.
Don't even let him on the damn bus go back. Make him figure it out. Make him call an Uber or whatever. But dude, don't even let him on the damn bus with the team. I will be officially absolutely done, and probably at the level where I'll just be openly roasting the coach. I don't like doing that. He is our coach, and I'm not going to do it now because we're winning ball games again.
Yeah.
But no, dude, FSU is where I draw the sand in the line. I draw the line in the sand. Absolutely.
The administration will be walking the tightrope of, if we lose next week and they don't fire Manny, it's going to be hard for some fans to not openly cheer against the team for what's best, right?
And that's bad. That's rough.
That's bad, because if I'm looking at myself, honestly, I'm looking at that Duke game the week after, and I'm thinking we can be out of this nightmare with a loss. Why would I be pumped about winning? You have to incentivize winning. Everyone, humanity runs on incentives, right?
Pretty much.
If the administration is incentivizing losing for the fans, we're going to want the team to lose. Okay? You have to be incentivizing the right things. And so it's going to be an ethical dilemma for a lot of fans, including myself, if we lose next week and Manny does not get fired. Why on earth would I want us to beat Duke?
I think for a lot of fans, it's the frustration of knowing that 7 or 8 wins truly might be enough. We talk about how it might get you by.
Yeah.
But it really truly might be enough at Miami now in their eyes. 8 wins especially, fighting for that 9th in a bowl game, but ultimately losing. That kind of stuff. That seems to be something that they're, well, at least as of recent, the last couple, 15 years, totally freaking acceptable. And that's the frustration, is that even if we think things are going to go bad, we still don't know if the school is going to make the right call. We should never settle on 8 wins. We should never settle on 8 wins. We should be settling on 9 minimum and double-digit wins consistently. Yep. We have the most talent in the nation in our backyard, period. We are in Miami. We have the most talent you can ask for.
Yeah. I call 8-4, I call that a bad year, okay? 7-5 is a massive rebuild in my opinion. Okay, when we are
people need to get fired at 7-5.
Yes, when we're having, or that's the record that when you bring in a coach to fix a horrible dumpster fire, he should go 7-5 at Miami.
Yeah, understandable. And building it up.
That should be a rebuild year, right? 7-5 is a rebuild year. We're not even at that level, right? So, because I agree with you, we're looking at 7-5, and it's like, oh, that's pretty much what Al Golden and Manny Diaz and Randy Shannon like averaged while they were here. That's horrible, man. How is that acceptable to anyone? The
American Gamer brought up a good point here too, dealing with recruiting and stuff. We don't have any of the talent in our backyard this year, and he's absolutely right.
Yep.
Even though this is a year where South Florida talent isn't necessarily as abundant as normal, there's still guys that could be starting on our team, no doubt about it. Yep. And I'll tell you, there's one player, dude, Omar Graham, the linebacker that ended up going to FSU. We messed that up so bad, bro. He told me multiple times he wanted to be a Cane, and he did not understand why we wouldn't prioritize him. FSU prioritized him. We played the slow game with him. Ultimately, they got a really good linebacker, a guy at a position that we really need help at, bro. That's what that pisses me off.
Yeah, dude, linebacker. Sheesh.
It just pisses me off.
We haven't recruited a good linebacker in 5 years, man.
No, I mean, we've recruited guys that have upside, but we just haven't developed them. I hope guys like Chase Smith and them break the mold. I really hope that they're the guys. While we know they're not going to be playing right away, at least some kind of a future. And I want to see them on the field a little more, getting some chances. I mean, yes, they're young, but there's always opportunities to get guys on the field at certain times. You just got to be a smart coach and do it right. Got to trust our coaches to do that. But it needs to happen, though.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts before we wrap up? We're running an hour and 12 minutes right now, so it's been a pretty good show.
Yep. I was about to wrap it up. Yeah. It just while we've talked about, we open this up with some of the positives and all that stuff, guys. Ultimately, we're not happy with what's going on. We're not okay with barely beating Georgia Tech. Manny Diaz is not the coach for either one of us still. He has to prove that he is. There's no just what ifs or magically wishing. He has to prove that he's the coach. And until then, I think we're all pretty much kind of just saying, dude, when are you going to get fired?
Yep. Well, I mean, that's the question. Just my last thought is that's kind of the question is if we could be having a conversation before the year, but we knew what was going to happen. And I said, hey, 9 games into the year, we're 5-4. Is that acceptable? You're looking at our schedule and you're like, no. Where's the 4 losses coming from, right?
Yeah, God, no.
Where's the 4 losses coming from? Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Maybe Alabama, one other. With context, we already talked about the context of Michigan State, right?
Yeah, they changed that. Yeah.
Yep, because if I told you before the season, hey, 9 games in, we're 7-2, Michigan State is ranked number 3, and that's your second loss, I'd be like, okay, that's great.
Yeah, not bad.
But here we are, 5-4. And the context of UNC kind of sucks. UNC's very average.
Yeah.
And you're 5-4.
It's tough, man. It's tough, dude. I just we got a victory today, guys. We're on a 3-game winning streak. We don't know exactly what the hell is going to happen this next week. I've got a lot of homework I need to do for this game, dude. Really, I really do, because I'm overlooking some aspects, and there's some things that they do that I might be a little worried about on our end. And it was great to be able to talk about another win. While it's frustrating that we can't openly celebrate wins like we want to because we have these concerns, at least we're seeing some kind of positivity, and we're seeing wins getting racked up on the sheet instead of losses. So we just want to thank you guys for joining us, man. Like I said, hour and 13 minutes in, had over 100 Canes fans with us this whole time. We greatly appreciate it, guys. We'll do this every week. We'll be right here on Mark Rogers TV for the post-game show. And as always, go Canes. It's all about the U.
Thanks, guys.